Dr. Todd Jenkins Jr., otherwise known as Dr. Bowtie, joins us now on the MegaCast. So great to have you with us.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning to you both.
How old were you when you learned how to tie your own bow tie? Because I'm guessing that's not a clip-on.
Yes, not a clip-on. It was in my collegiate days.
Oh, that's great. Well, they look great. Before we kind of jump in to the bow tie and the symbolism behind the bow tie, tell us more about Bowtie Leadership and Development, your company.
Bowtie Leadership and Development. We're a global leadership and development firm, and we were started out of a passion around really helping improve people's lives on and off the clock. And we started with leadership, and now we are very fortunate to have a growing team and to be globally in 5 different countries. In addition, our specialization today is focusing on inclusive efforts and workplaces, nonprofits, and then also in the startup community. And so we enjoy doing this work every day and living our passion. We have an awesome team. And so I'm fortunate to wake up to do this every day.
So has it been hard for you during the pandemic to be able to teach your leadership program to companies, or is it easier because you can do it over the internet?
Interesting. Well, I think that's subjective. How do you define hard and, what's subjective for easy? I think it's definitely been manageable, just as such of other firms. And, when the pandemic happened, I was actually, on stage before the COVID hit. And the next thing we knew, we had to shift into this virtual environment. And, it was some concerns with our team, with our contracts and things, because we have done so much in person. But, actually over the last 5 years since we went global, a lot of our things are virtually. So it was just really a pivot and adjustment, just like we talk to our leaders about every day. So I think it was manageable, and it actually did better than we thought by being able to virtually connect with, due to the shift in the climate. And now we're able to, save time, right, with the virtual connection, with our training, our programs. And we have actually received that it's just as effective as we were there in person. So, this is actually a new normal of the hybrid, that we're continuing to explore with our curriculum.
So do you think that will continue post-pandemic?
Oh, yeah. I think, once again, I think it will be blended approach. I think it's what's best for the client and the culture that we're working with. But we're open and we're flexible. And I really do believe, I do believe that, post the pandemic, we are in the new normal, right? We're adjusting to the new normal. So I don't think it's going to be, an and or but. I think it's just really saying what is best at the time for your people. So
these are challenging times for so many business leaders. How have you had to shift what you teach to them and how they lead their team virtually?
Yeah, our curriculum talks about building resilience in the workplace, being flexible leaders, right? Being empathetic leaders, and I think we were at a playing field that all can recognize due to the pandemic being global, right? We can all recognize how it is impacting our families, our company, our communities, and some disproportionately is impacted differently, based on identity status, et cetera. And so what we have really taught our leaders at the beginning of the pandemic is that, stay true to your mission around equity and inclusion, because your people need you, more than ever before. And so as we continue to talk to leaders through this pandemic, it has never changed and it's not changing. Your people still need you. You still need to be people-centered. And so we're continuing to evolve leadership competencies around a people-centered model that reflects your business solutions.
Dr. Todd C. Jenkins with us here on the MegaCast, otherwise known as Dr. Bowtie with Bowtie Leadership and Development. I have to say, though, I miss people, even the ones I didn't really like working with. It's just those organic, spur-of-the-moment conversations. And while, yes, we can do our jobs remotely, that is the part that is missing.
Yeah, my response to that, of course, I miss people. Now, let me be very clear. I do not recommend that, this is the entire lifestyle of how we should run our ecosystem and our social cues. As a sociology background, I understand the characteristics and customs of being together in a unit to define your culture of your business, to actually help with productivity, and just overall health, if you will, holistic health. And so I miss people too. And I do think, as the turn and how things are slowly coming back, we will be in a position again. I really do believe that we will be back connected, socially. However, I want people to understand that people are going to come back into the social space at different levels of engagement. And so we need to be a little more empathetic and show grace and compassion of asking people, how do you wish to be treated? Instead of assuming to say, this is how I'm going to treat you. So I'm going to throw in and hug you, high five you, because I need that and I miss that. And I think that is going to be an interesting piece that we need to talk a little bit more about in company culture, really understanding, boundaries and what's the expectations around interacting back together in the workplace.
Yeah, we even have that within our own families. There's different levels of comfort and how to address that within our own families. And now to go back into the workplace, we need to have those conversations. So how are you teaching, your clients about what they can expect as more and more people head back into the offices?
Yeah, as to your point, various comfort levels, this pandemic has definitely impacted us in so many different ways, and good and bad, right? It was some challenging parts and there was some opportunities. And we dealt with two pandemics, that was kind of emerged together. You got the pandemic of COVID-19 that the world recognized, and the second pandemic, racism, that, we were waking back up to again, like it was a new thing. So those are part of the conversation of coming back together from a company mission, vision, and values. And so what I'm telling leaders are how to prepare for, return to work, because we've actually been doing this conversations over the last 6 months. Returning to work and phase plans, et cetera, is number one, what is your mission? What is your values? Because your values will set you free. And if you value your employees, you value your people, you're going to do what you need to do to meet your people where they're at. Not assume where they need to be and where they should be. No, you need to talk to your people. And that takes a lot more time, effort, and energy. And the best leaders are leading their people and not managers or managing things. So I think that's what we're continuing to encourage our leaders to have those conversations, create the spaces, create the parameters so your employees feel that they can be their best self as they return back to work.
So I know one of your areas of expertise deals with diversity and equity and inclusion in the workplace. As we start to head back and you're merging those conversations about racism, but also a pandemic on top of that, how important is it for some of these companies? Because we do see so many companies will put out statements, but they're not actually living the words. So how can they take it from a statement on a piece of paper to actually living it within the culture of that workplace?
Yeah, it depends. Everything depends on the culture, and since we have global climates, definitely different things around laws, et cetera. But I'm going to keep it very general. You just said it. It's a statement. It's something that comes out of your mouth, right? So how can you follow that up with your behavior? So the things you think, say, and do. And I think that comes down to what we call strategy development. Your diversity, equity, and inclusion doesn't just happen. Maybe diversity, when you get diverse identities in a room together, but inclusive climate, that is facilitated. And equity is inspired design. And so in order to actually live out this statement, you need to be able to have your strategy in place. And this is a journey. It's a journey of maturity. And everyone starts on this journey very differently. And so you have to be able to ensure that you have those actionable, have the correct infrastructure of sustainability and accountability, Education is important, of course, that is one of the key, but you have to be able to bake diversity, equity, and inclusion into your system in order for it to sustain. And so our firm, we take an ecosystem approach, not only just your system with internal the workplace, but also your marketplace, your customers, the communities in which you live and serve. And so once you examine and really diagnose the issue, now you can treat the diagnosis, if you will. And so that's what we need to continue to do, to have our treatment plan for racism, and then our prevention plans for all the other isms or et cetera that the company is probably engaging with on the society in which they are currently taking place.
So give us the story behind the bow tie.
The bow tie. So for me,
I'm sure you get asked that quite often, right?
Yeah. So the bow tie for me, is larger than the necktie. It came to me. I love to travel locally and globally. And when I, whether I'm traveling from the shopping mart, I'm here in Bentonville, Arkansas, so home of Walmart. So whether I'm traveling to Walmart or I'm going to Germany and the airplane, going through the terminal, people will stop and ask me about my bow tie and my necktie. I mean, curious, people are like, hey, did you tie that yourself? Or people say this nice things, it looks cool, I like your bow, and it doesn't matter the company, the culture or country. And so I started to have this epiphany, what if we lived in a society where people would genuinely stop what they're doing to be curious about another human that they never met before? Just what if we lived in that society, that we approach each other out of curiosity and compassion and positivity? And so the bow tie for me essentially is that platform of our philosophy, how I do business, how I live my life. It's an acronym of how to have everyday conversations as such. And then also in due part, every day I wake up to, create environments for people to belong and thrive together, one bow tie combo at a time. So really, this necktie has really became, essentially how I live my day-to-day life and how I align my best yes and best no's. And I think that curiosity, that vulnerability can really take us into new levels of engagement around empathy.
So with that, it's a conversation starter.
Yes,
so how is that, do you think it's going to be impacted in the middle of the pandemic as you start to travel again? People aren't so willing to come up and talk to strangers now like they used to be.
Yeah, you're right, and I, just as the bow tie and the necktie is just a conversation starter, I do think it's going to be an interesting dynamic of, of people with, like we were talking about earlier, the levels of comfort and as well as caution, right? And it's very interesting that everyone is not so expressive to go have the courage to go speak to someone. And so that's not an expectation. But here's the point around the bow tie combo. It doesn't really take place of just a conversation starter. It's really take place of being in the moment with someone else, whether that's a stranger or not, and being able to really maximize the conversation so you can lead the conversation better than you came in from an empathy level. And so it's really talk about how you can be engaged, be open to new ideas, willing to share your own experience. That's BOW. And the hardest part of the conversation is just not in the middle, which is the TIE. How do you make that conversation better than you found it?
So have you seen the mask where they light up and you can put messages on them and they kind of scroll across your face? Yeah. I think you need a bow tie that does that.
That'd be awesome. Hey, if you have a referral, please feel free to send it to myself or my team. We'll love that. I think going forward, we this interesting social climate that we're in, it has allowed for us to pause for a moment. So many times we have excuses around technology are distracting us, or my life, I got to go to work, I got to do this, I have to do that. And I think this pandemic really put us in a place to pause and reflect on the things that matter to you as a person or as a company or as a community. And I think moving forward, we're going to I really do believe that the ones who have been able to reflect on those multiple levels are going to take that back into the workplace. And I think we're going to continue to align more of a value-centered model that's holistic. So I'm not just way at work. This is one Bowtie Todd. I'm not this way one in the community. I'm not just one way with my family. It's this harmony that I really think that we're evolving in as a society to have a blended approach as we do life.
Yeah, I think we'll all be a little bit nicer to one another when we get back to where we once were, right? Dr. Todd Jenkins with us here on the MegaCast. He is known as Dr. Bowtie from Bowtie Leadership and Development. It's been great having you with us. Your smile is infectious.
It is.
Do you ever have a bad day?
I don't really think I have bad days. I could have some moments. I have some moments where I can consider it as a potentially challenging or disappointment. But no, I make sure I determine the difference between the moments and the situation. And my situations can linger through days. And I'm blessed to say that I don't have I can't really write down the bad situations. I will say that, I'm not sure if you all knew, but we just welcomed a new arrival in my home, which is our first newborn son.
Oh, congratulations.
And so I don't really think at this moment, of course, this is as a new father, but, my legacy is here. I don't think I have any bad days going forward. Every day is going to be turned into something that's going to be better. So I'm just super stoked. I'm super excited.
Well, we so appreciate your time. You can find out more at bowtieleadership.com.